this is Julie from Chapel Hill Vintage Jewels. It's been a long time since we've done a video, and I hope everybody is healthy and safe. Today we're going to talk about specialty stones. This is really part 2 of a series. We had part 1 up there, and I got so many interesting comments from the videos. I think that we're all watching videos, we're all watching webinars as we quarantine ourselves. And I really appreciate all the good thoughts and ideas that you've put on the YouTube channel. So just a little reminder about specialty stones. It was after World War II where costume jewelry started getting really popular, and by 1945 it had actually tripled in sales. So in the 50s, the rhinestone manufacturers started to work on specialty stones, and that's what we're talking about. It can be a complex topic, and so I want to show you the examples of things. So there's a few stones that we're not going to cover. If I don't have examples of it, then we don't cover that topic. I refer you to Costume Jewelry 303. That's Julie Carroll's book, and it does a fabulous job about going through these specialty stones. So why is it important to know what these are? Well, first of all, it helps date the piece, in that most of these stones didn't come before the 50s. So if it has these specialty stones in it, then it can't be earlier than that. The other thing is, in some cases, it helps you identify the manufacturer of pieces that you may have that are unsigned. It's not a slam dunk on that, because there's usually several different manufacturers who may have used a certain stone, but it helps at least narrow things down. And it will also help you determine the value. I can't even tell you how many mislabelings of things there are. If I just went to eBay this morning, and there was a lady that said she had an Alice Cavanis Sapphirette set, and I looked at it, and there isn't anything in the set that was remotely close to a Sapphirette stone. And the issue with that is not so much, everybody makes mistakes, but Sapphirette brings in a much higher value. It's rarer, and so it has a bigger dollar sign attached to it. So I just think it's a good thing to know. It is a little bit more of the advanced level of looking at vintage jewelry, but I think it's going to be helpful for you in many ways. This necklace is a very good example of frosted stones. There's a lot of them in here. And these are Navette-shaped, light blue frosted stones. You can also see, just going back to part 1 again, this is Aurora Borealis. That's the one where it has an iridescent coat. So this necklace actually has both of those specialty stones that would be considered surface finishes. Here's another example in this beautiful butterfly. It's got orchid color satin finish. Here's another one in a bracelet rhinestone with both Aurora Borealis and the satin finish Navette. Again, frosted stone. So you could call it frosted stone Navette shaped. And then this set, which I believe is Weiss. And I think that's the only signed set on this little example, but it has very large yellow satin finish stones amongst enamel. The second type of specialty stone is bicolor variations. In the first part of this specialty stone series, we talked about watermelon and we talked about sapphirette. Here we're going to talk about Givre. And what Givre means is, it's French for frosted, but these aren't frosted, so that's really not helpful. But that's where they came up with Givre. It's color added within a transparent color. And I think that this pin and earrings is probably the best example I have in that, because It's very clearly a blue color that's been added to a very clear glass rhinestone. And this funky little bracelet that I have, it's an inexpensive piece, but it was a good one because it has Givre in different colors. Here's blue and white and pink, green, different variations of the color. So these Givre Bicolor can be any color combination, but it's really about two different colors. So also bicolor stones. These are a couple of examples of not Givre, but different bicolor stones. This one has, this can be called Sabrina, and it's translucent with the infusion of color. And so this you can see very clearly pink and white all the way around this and the earrings. And same in the leaf, which are pressed leaves. This is very clearly blue glass with a purple infusion. The stones that you see here are multi-cane stones. That's the way that rhinestones are made, is they're long tubes or canes of different glass that's melted into a mold. This one is multi-cane. The technical term for it is porphyry. It's Porphyry. Multiple colors. The ones that you're looking at right now, this set is Christian Dior. And this pin is Regency. Regency did these with the big drop porphyry stones in every different color you can think of. I spent some time trying to collect them all and never finished it. But pink, green, blue, many colors to this. It's straight lines. That's the difference. Straight lines running through glass. Okay, what we're looking at now are several examples of what's called a flawed emerald. And it's a funny thing because people say, oh, when you're listing, you shouldn't put flawed emerald. People think that, there's something wrong with it. But no, that's the type of stone that it is. And it has tiny, you have to look at it very closely. And obviously, the tinier the piece, the closer you have to get. So it's best to use your loupe for this. But there'll be little tiny white lines or swirls within the glass. And that's called flawed emerald. It's meant to look like the real thing. There's also flawed sapphires and flawed rubies. So here's some examples. I believe this is Regency, and this is Signer, and this is Christian Dior. All of them using these stones called flawed emeralds. Now we're going to switch over to a specialty classification that I'm going to refer to as textured. In part one, we talked a lot about the lava rock stone. What we're looking at here are what's called nugget tops. Somebody asked me that in one of the videos when I covered that in part one. They said, well, what's the other stone called? Well, it's called nugget. There's a lot of different terms that it could be called, but we're just going to call it nugget right here. Now in this piece, this is a El Schiaparelli piece. So this one is the one that we used when we were talking about the lava rock. See the big chunky shape to that? Very textured. Difference in feel is what really we're talking about here. But then if you look at these small little teardrop stones, those have a very rough surface to it, and that's what I'm talking about when I talk about nugget top stones. Here's a really good, pops out at you, bright yellow Aurora Borealis, but very large oval nugget top stones, and those would have been pressed in a mold. So the texture of that would have been in the mold, and the glass is just poured into the mold. Here's another Schiaparelli set. Uses the same ones. This is an unsigned piece. This is signed Schiaparelli. This is white milk glass. And this piece is unsigned. You'll also see that some of these stones are the translucent that have the color in them, and those would be Givre. But that the white part stands out and is very much milk glass. This is Trifari. This is a pressed leaf design, so it looks a little bit different than the cabochons, but it's also milk glass. And this is Schiaparelli, very large milk glass interspersed with Aurora Borealis. And then there are other colors of milk glass. It isn't just white. You'll find a lot in peach and orange, and here's one that's in blue. Opaque, you cannot see through it. Here's another Schiaparelli piece that has the white milk glass, and it also has the blue stones are called cat's eyes. The ones on the bottom, all these three pieces, are actually not glass. It's the only ones that we've talked about that are not glass. These are actually lucite, and they're called Moonglow. And I myself often mislabel them as moonstone. They are not moonstone. They're called Moonglow, and they're lucite. These, I think all three pieces here, are coral. And they're older coral, probably 1940s. So what we're looking at here are sparkly stones that are actually called, they're foil effects. So it has to do with foil either being added to the back of a glass stone or actually crumpled up inside the stone. And sometimes it can be real gold and real silver foil. So what we're looking at, we covered Mexican opals. That would be an example of it in part one. What we're looking at here is imitation foil opals. I don't know if I think they look like opals really, but that's what they're called. So this is an Alice Cavanis piece, and that you can see it's smooth on the top, but it has a very sparkly effect to it, and that's because it's got foil in the manufacturing process. Here's another example. Julie Carroll's 303. There's more stones covered in here. And she actually uses this book as a reference in hers because this one, which is Sybil Jargstorff, Baubles, Buttons, and Beads, very good book. Talks a lot about Czech jewelry. But this one actually goes a little bit more into how the actual glass pieces are made. So if you really want to delve into things, it's a good resource. And these are all in the back of the presentation. The last one is this Juliana jewelry reference, and it's by Ann Pittman. I don't have this one in the reference, and the reason being is that, boy, is it ever difficult to find. And when you do, this book is like, can be a couple $100 because it's out of print. I didn't pay that much, but it's out of print and very, very difficult to find. But it talks about just Juliana jewelry, Deliza and Elster, and it goes through giving you all kinds of examples of a lot of the specialty stones that they used. A lot more than we've covered in part one and part two in these videos. That's it for now. Don't forget to visit Chapel Hill Vintage Jewels on Ruby Lane. There's a lot of examples of jewelry. Now you should be able to just type in some of the names of these stones and get some more examples for you to look at and get familiar with.